Hey, what is up you guys? It's Thursdays on my channel, which means we're going to talk about the TV show. Now, today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm not going to be taking the lead on this one. I'm not even going to be in the video except for this part right here. Because this week we're going to talk about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I figured I'd give my brother the opportunity to talk about it all he wants. His love, hate, whatever. I hope he enjoys talking about it, and hope y'all do too. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Greetings, gentle viewers. I'm Ricky, Derek's brother/editor, and today we're going to be discussing all things Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Cue the music! Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Buffy has been one of my favorite TV shows since 1997. It's one of my top 5 favorites of all time, and has remained so since I first started watching it. Now, before we get into the show itself, we need to discuss the history of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now, Buffy started off as a movie that Joss created. His basic concept was that pretty little cheerleader that always gets killed by the monsters in horror movies? What if she kicked its ass instead? And thus, Buffy was born. The movie, however, was not received well. The biggest problem, at least in my opinion, was it really wasn't what Joss's vision was. Joss Whedon had a specific vision, and between studio interference and the director, it made his grand idea just into this big cheese ball of a movie. As entertaining as it is to watch, it doesn't have the heart that the TV series does. And that's why we're going to be discussing this mid-season replacement that grew into a cultural worldwide phenomenon, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Season 1. Now, we're going to break this up into chapters, so to speak. It ran for 7 years, and each group of seasons was kind of like life. And we begin life in high school. The worst years you will ever have. Because, here we go with symbolism. The high school itself and the town is located on a hell mouth. The mouth of hell. A portal to hell. And this, all evil things gravitated towards it, and that's why they needed a Slayer. We begin with Buffy arriving in Sunnydale for her first day of high school. A body drops. Buffy meets her watcher, Giles. And he basically goes into the spiel of why she was sent there, and why he was sent there, and what her role is.
Because you are the Slayer. Into each generation, a Slayer is born. One girl in all the world, a chosen one born with a
strength and skill to hunt the vampires, to stop the spread of their evil blah, blah, blah. I've heard it, okay?
She's hesitant at first. But later that night, when they go to, she goes to the Bronze to try to hang out, and she spends some time with Willow, tries to get her to be strong, go say hi to a guy. Well, the guy that Willow goes to talk to is a vampire. So she tries to slay him. But, as we find out, him and a vampire named Darla, Julie Benz, they work for the Master. And the Master is the big bad of the season. The Master is this ancient vampire who, after an earthquake, got stuck inside of a church. And he's been trying for almost a century to escape, to get out. And that's basically what the whole season is about, him trying to get out. The second episode was The Harvest, and that's when Buffy, Willow, and Xander and Giles become the Scooby Gang. Buffy prevents the Harvest and the apocalypse, which would have happened if the Master escaped, and we begin our journey into Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like I said before, it was a Monster of the Week format. Each episode was dealing with a different kind of issue. There was about pressure from parents and the witch. They're in the pack. You have these group of bullies, and including Xander, who just happened to be in the room at the time. They were kind of possessed by hyenas and became a pack, and that's what bullies usually run in. They run in packs. See the symbolism? Joss was speaking on so many levels with these episodes. And everything led up to the season finale, Prophecy Girl, which was the first episode that I saw. Now, this episode hit the ground running. Almost literally. You start off with Xander, who has had a crush on Buffy the entire year. He wants to ask her the spring formal, and he's practicing on Willow, who has a crush on him. She turned him down. It hurt him, and he went off as brokenhearted because he liked her, and he put himself out there, and she rejected him. Later on, she's in the bathroom, and she pours the water, and blood starts spilling out from it. After the earthquake, she puts two and two together, like, hey, I think we have an apocalypse on our hands. So she tries to go talk to Giles, but she eavesdrops, or more to the point, walks in and hears Giles talking to Angel about a prophecy he read, that Buffy would face the Master and die. And what followed was one of Sarah's best performances, one of her best in the season 1.
Read me the signs! Tell me my fortune! You're so useful sitting here with all of your books! You're really a lot of help!
I don't suppose I am.
Giles, I'm 16 years old. I don't want to die.
And that was the heartbreaking part of it. She was 16 years old, and she found that she was going to die. So she decided, you know what? Screw it. I quit. So she quits being a Slayer. Some people end up dying, and she somewhat blamed herself for not being able to stop it. So she decides that on the night of the spring formal, wearing her beautiful white dress, that she would go down and face the Master. Willow is in they're all upset. But Willow's in the mode that, okay, how do we stop the Master? Where's he going to rise? And Giles needed her help with that. Xander was freaking out because he wanted, why don't we just stop that from happening? And he goes to the person who he hates more than anything for help. He goes to Angel. The Master feeds from Buffy, not enough to kill her, just enough to make her pass out, and she drowns in this pool of water. Xander and Angel arrive, and seeing her dead, Xander doesn't give up. He gives her CPR and brings her back. And that causes a little bit of problems later. They go and face the Master, and Buffy kicks his ass. Round 2, Buffy. And that leads into season 2. Now, when she comes back from LA, she's a little bit, I want to say darker, but after her near-death experience, it changed her a little bit. And then you had these vampires are trying to do a spell to bring back the Master. And after that's thwarted, the season continues, and we're introduced to a new group of vampires who would become what we think is the big bad. Spike was played by James Marsters, and he became a fan favorite. Both him and Drusilla were supposed to die around mid-season, but they were so popular that Joss was like, you know what? Let's keep them around a little longer. The whole season, the first half of the season, was about relationships. Now, Buffy came back, and Buffy and Angel started this on kind of, sort of, will they, won't they sort of thing. Xander started dating Cordelia, of all people. They had this weird moment in the basement of Buffy's house with this bug guy, and Willow started seeing this guitarist named Oz. Willow was dating a werewolf. And Giles sort of started seeing Jenny Calendar. Jenny Calendar was a character introduced late in season 1, and she found out about the whole Buffy is a Slayer kind of thing and helped him out from time to time. In the episode What's My Line?, we were introduced to a new character called Kendra the Vampire Slayer. So we now have 2 Slayers. How? When Buffy died, the next Slayer was called. And when Xander brought her back to life, that didn't take away Kendra's power. So they both had the power. They were both Vampire Slayers. So now we're up to 2 Vampire Slayers rather than the old I'm the only one thing. And teaming up together, they helped stop Drusilla and Spike from killing Angel. They were doing a spell to help heal Drusilla, played by Juliette Landau. I can't remember the whole thing of why. While you think they're dead, we get a few episodes of general high school monster of the week type thing, and the 2-parter, Surprise and Innocence. That's when the show really hit its stride. Spike and Drusilla are creating, well, not so much creating, they have all these boxes with parts of a demon, and they're going to put them all together and bring forth the Judge. The Judge is this super strong, almost impossible foe, can't be killed by anything forged by man, and he could literally drain the life out of humanity. It would wipe out the world, essentially, unless you're a demon or evil. And while trying to protect Norma in a box, Buffy and Angel finally have sex. And this is where Joss Whedon's brilliance kind of shows in. It's Angel loses his soul and becomes a monster again. And that's the symbolic part of it. You finally sleep with a guy who you love, trust, seems like a nice guy, but becomes a monster after. Symbolism. In the back half of the season, Angel started torturing Buffy mentally, because he wasn't going to just kill her. He wanted to play with her first, until she was completely broken. And in one episode, he ended up killing Jenny. And she was killed like right as she found a way to re-install Angel. She found the spell, she found the orb of Thessala. That's what it's called, the orb of Thessala. To bring back Angel the way he was. It gets lost, but it's all found in the season finale, becoming part 1 and 2. You get some backstory on Angel in that one too, and they're trying to figure out a way to reinstall Angel. While this is all happening, Angel has this stone statue called a Kafala, and it has a sword in its chest. And a vampire who is worthy can remove the sword, and basically a Kafala will suck the world into hell. But Angel keeps trying and it doesn't work, so he needs someone smart and knows what to do it. The night they're trying to reinstall him, that's when Angel and his people attack her. They're all attacked, and they take Giles. And Giles is basically tortured by Angel until he gives the information that he needs on how to take the sword out of Kafala. Willow wakes up and decides, okay, I want to try again. Even though she's weak from being in the coma, she decides, I want to try again. I'm going to reinstall Angel. While Xander goes to tell Buffy, hey, Willow's going to try to bring Angel back. But Xander makes the poor decision of saying, kick his ass instead. Angel pulls the thing out, and now Buffy has no choice but to kill him. Because the only way to close that portal is to use the same blood that opened it. And they fought, and they spectacular sword fight. Right before she's about to do the killing blow, Angel's eyes turn white, and he's ensouled again. Buffy stands him up, and she kisses him one last time, and drives her sword through his chest. And Angel gets sucked into hell. So at the end of the episode, she decides to leave town. In season 3, Buffy comes back, and we're introduced to a new Slayer, because in the season finale of the previous season, Kendra was killed, and that called forth the next Slayer, so again, we're still at 2 Slayers. And Faith, played masterfully by Elijah Dushku, she's the bad Slayer. She was a bit darker as a Slayer. I mean, she didn't take any crap. I mean, she just I'm a slayer. I'm gonna kill. That's what I do. My job. And that causes a problem later in the season. She tries to be like Buffy when she comes to town. Try to be the dutiful slayer. One of the elements of that entire season was all the couples were starting to fracture. Angel came back from hell, and they started the on again, off again thing the entire season. The Scoobies, Xander and Cordelia, ended up breaking up because during Homecoming, Xander started having feelings for Willow, and they started kissing, and they were caught by Oz and Cordelia after they were kidnapped by Spike when Spike came back to town for an episode. Eventually, Willow and Oz did repair their relationship, but Xander and Cordelia stayed broken up, which actually led to one of the fun episodes of that season. In The Wish, Cordelia makes this wish that Buffy had never come to Sunnydale, and this demon, Anya, who plays an important part later in the series, makes the wish come true. And we see a world where Buffy never came to Sunnydale. Xander and Willow are vampires. Angel is basically the master's little bitch. All while this is going on, the mayor of Sunnydale, he's preparing for something. He's actually the big bad of the season, and he is preparing for his ascension. Basically, he wants to be a big-ass, powerful, pure demon. The mayor's aide tries to warn Buffy and Faith about what he's doing, try to help them to defeat him. Eventually, when they're mowing down vampires in this alley, the mayor's aide, who's wanting to try to help them to defeat the mayor, not the master, the mayor, Faith kills him. Buffy slams him against the wall, and Buffy says, "Wait, no!" But she wasn't fast enough, and Faith kills him. And that began Faith's descent to the dark side. They tried to get through to her, but Faith, being Faith, wasn't having it, and she eventually teamed up with the mayor. Angel realized that with Buffy getting ready for college, she was going to start living life, and Angel knew that a life with him would never really, truly be able to work out because he's not human. So he decides to leave Sunnydale after they deal with the mayor. There were 2 episodes that season that were pulled because in April of 1999 there was a shooting at Columbine High School, and one of the episodes that was going to air almost immediately after that was called Earshot. Buffy got the ability to read minds from a demon, and she heard one day that someone was going to kill them all in school. So obviously they made the decision to pull it. But here's the thing about that episode. The whole episode is her trying to figure out who is it. You see Jonathan Levinson, this little nerdy kid that you see throughout the series. He's going to the clock tower in school with a rifle. And Buffy runs up there and gives this empowered speech about no one sees your pain because everyone's too busy dealing with their own. Because just because you think you're upset doesn't mean no one else is in pain, because everyone in high school is dealing with something that their own pain. Jonathan says, "I wasn't here to kill them. I came here to kill myself." And Buffy managed to save his life, but still someone was going to kill everyone. That was the main reason why they decided not to do the episode, because there was a kid with a gun, but even though it was about him being so depressed he was going to kill himself, they decided to pull the episode. I see why, but at the same time, it was important to see that episode because it's about everyone in high school is hurting. Everyone is going through something. We find out in the goofy way at the end of the episode, to try to lighten it up, it was the cafeteria worker who put rat poison in the food because she thought all the kids were monsters. They'd coming in, eating the food, leaving the mess. Graduation day comes. They fight the mayor. They lower him into the school, and they blow up the library, which was their base of operations for years. For the past 3 years, they blew up the library and the mayor. along with the entire school. So again, understand blowing up a school, not the... At least they had a reason. I mean, they were trying to stop a giant snake monster. I mean, he was huge. He was like over almost 100 feet tall. In season 4 began the college years. The second most important part of any teenager growing up. We begin Buffy starting college. She's trying to find classes and she's trying to fit in, and her roommate's really annoying, who turns out to be a demon. The biggest thing about this particular season is it's about life after high school. Some people go to college, like Buffy and Willow and Oz did. And Xander was a townie. He didn't have the grades to get into college. Giles, since he is no longer a watcher and the library kind of blowed up, he was unemployed. He was trying to find his place in Sunnydale and in Buffy's life because he still couldn't leave her. We meet some new people in this season. Riley Finn, played by Mark Lucas, and he becomes Buffy's love interest for the season. And he has a secret. He's with a secret organization known as the Initiative. And basically the Initiative is this secret group underneath the school that hunts down monsters and demons and that kind of thing and experiments on them to try to see what makes them tick. Also during the season, Spike returns, and he's captured by this Initiative group, and they put a chip inside his head that pretty much keeps him from being able to hurt anybody. So every time he tries to bite a human, he feels this intense neurological pain in his head, basically neutering him. The big bad Spike is now a little puppy dog. Eventually he finds out that he can kick demon ass, so that's when he becomes part, sort of the Scooby Gang. Seth Green, who played Oz, wanted to leave the show, so they found a way to write him out. His inner wolfness was something he was trying to come to grips with for a long time. And he eventually he couldn't really control it anymore. So he decides to leave town and try to figure it out. So him and Willow break up. But without a doubt, my favorite episode of the season, in the whole series, was Hush. In this episode, you meet Tara McClay. Tara is a witch in Willow's Wicca group, and they become friends, and they find out that they both really actually have magical powers, unlike the other posers in that little Wicca group. Also, Buffy and Riley have been kind of sort of dating, and every time they're about to kiss, they start talking. It gets in the way. And that's basically the theme of the episode. These monsters come into town and steal everyone's voices, and because of that, when we stop speaking and stop talking, we start communicating. Important lesson. And these monsters come in, they steal people's hearts, and we need to find a way to stop them, and the only way to stop them is to scream. Buffy and Riley finally kiss when they stop talking, and then they later also find out, oh, she's a Slayer, he's an Initiative guy. And they take down the bad guys together. He breaks the box which held all the voices in town. Buffy got her voice back and she screams, and their heads pop like a pimple. Buffy finally finds out what the Initiative is up to. They're creating this super soldier that's part man, part demon, and part machine. And that's what the government wants to do. They want to build these super soldiers for the army. The finale was different than most, because you had the big fight with the Initiative in the penultimate episode. And in that one, the Scoobies are fractured. For some reason, Spike starts to work with Adam. And because he knows the Scoobies so well, he knows exactly how to fracture them. Call it the Yoko factor, as they did. He split them up by just saying the just right thing to say to them to make them kind of go against one another. They break up, but then they come back together and fight the Initiative together. They stop Adam by doing the spell to enjoin each other.
Spirit.
Animus. Heart.
Surface. Mind.
in Manus, the Hand.
That plays an important part in the next episode after they had defeated Adam. The season finale, Restless. This entire episode was insane because it all took place in their dreams. They were all dreaming about their lives. It was about their past, where they were, where they are now, and where they want to go, where they want to be. Along with the Cheese Man. Still have no idea what the Cheese Man's up to. The next 3 seasons are basically about growing up. Life becoming more complicated. Actually having to be an adult in the adult world. And it becomes more complicated with the introduction of the new bad of the season, Glory. Now, Glory is a demigod from a hell dimension. And she's after the key. What is the key? This pretty little girl right here. Michelle Trachtenberg as Dawn. These monks created Dawn and changed the memories of everyone in Sunnydale. And she's Buffy's sister now. As Buffy finds out more about Dawn and her part of being the key and Glory, Buffy's mom starts to get sick. We find out that she has a brain tumor. And that the first half of the season, or the first chunk of the season, is Buffy trying to balance that with dealing with Glory. Along with all that, Buffy is trying to find herself as a Slayer. What's it mean to be a Slayer? So she talks to the one person who knows about Slayers, having killed 2, Spike, who this season is in love with Buffy. In the mid-season finale, Into the Woods, Buffy's mom goes into surgery for her tumor. And that's how the episode starts. She's in surgery, she gets out, doctor says everything's okay. Riley finds out that there's this group, kind of like the Initiative, and decides to leave Sunnydale because he doesn't think Buffy loves him. Because she's never really said it, and well, Buffy tried to stop him, but she was too late. One of the more humorous episodes of that season was I Was Made to Love You. We meet Warren Mears, who I hate and would want to punch in the face with a frickin' shovel, built himself a sex bot named April. This was the villain of the episode. It was goofy and funny, only because in the final moments, when Buffy gets home, Buffy's mom was on the couch, unresponsive. And that leads to the saddest episode of the season, maybe even the series, The Body. And that entire episode was different, kind of like Hush was. In this one, there was no villain of the episode, other than death. It's played without any music at all. Usually, yeah, there's a soft score underneath. There's a bad guy. None of that. Sarah's reaction in the first 10 minutes of her being by herself, going from a one-track shot and doing all this stuff, it was just... She was amazing in this episode. Fusion of death with Anya. I was pretty strong throughout this entire episode. I had just a single main tear every now and again, but when Anya said this, I broke.
But I don't understand. I don't understand how this all happens. How we go through this. I mean, I knew her, and then there's just a body. And I don't understand why she just can't get back in it and not be dead anymore. It's stupid. It's mortal and stupid. And Xander's crying and not talking, and I was having fruit punch, and I thought, well, Joyce will never have any more fruit punch, ever, and she'll never have eggs, or yawn, or brush her hair, not ever, and no one will explain to me why.
I broke down after that. Not gonna lie, Niagara Falls. And that's what propelled Buffy the rest of the season, was she was without her mom, and she still had to deal with taking care of Dawn and Glory. And all that culminated in the final episode, The Gift. In the few episodes before, Dawn was taken by Glory, Buffy went catatonic, and when she was finally snapped out of it, they came together, came up with a plan, and eventually defeated Glory, but they were a little bit late. Dawn's blood opened up the portal to this hell dimension. And the only thing that could stop it was when the blood flowed no more, when Dawn was dead. So Buffy sacrificed herself to save Dawn. bringing back to what the first Slayer told Buffy in one of the early episodes was, death is your gift. Season 6 picks up a few months later. The gang is trying to move on without Buffy, and they're using the Buffy bot. Yeah, Spike had Warren build a Buffy bot for him to have sex with. Creepy. But they reprogrammed her to basically be Buffy in the absence. With Buffy dead, Giles decides to leave town. He gives the magic shop, which he inherited in season 5, and he gives that to Anya. And this happens right as they're about to do a resurrection spell for Buffy. They do this resurrection spell when these demons come to town and start tearing stuff up. And they bring Buffy back. And we find out that they thought that Buffy was in a hell dimension, maybe. But the entire time that they thought she was there, she was in heaven. And that put Buffy in a deep, dark depression, because she was in this beautiful, quiet, peaceful place and finally had her rest, and she was yanked out of there by the people who loved her most and just missed her. She was back in this world. She had to get a job and try to find her place, and while still dealing with all this emotion. And all that kind of bottled up in the best episode of the season was the musical, Buffy the Musical. Once more with feeling. Buffy reveals to all of them that she was in heaven, and they finally realize what they did. So they do what they can to try to make her comfortable, make her happy again. But Willow, who most of the season had been relying a little bit more and more on magic, starting to become addicted to it, decides to do a spell to make Buffy forget, but ends up making everyone forget everything. At the end of that one, Tara and Willow break up because of her addiction to magic. And Buffy's starting a semi-relationship with Spike because he's the only one that she can talk to about this and how she feels. And Xander starts slowly preparing for his wedding with Anya. Willow is trying to give up magic cold turkey. Riley comes back briefly, and he's married. He talks to Buffy, and he kind of gives her the talk that she needed to kind of pull her out of her funk just a little bit. I mean, it wasn't a lot, but it was enough. And she was going to try to move forward. And that's when Xander and Anya were supposed to get married. But a demon that Anya had turned years ago comes back, and finding out that she's human and getting married, decides to wreck her marriage by showing Xander a nightmare vision of their future together. It freaks Xander out so much that he calls off the wedding. And it's not because of anything that she was. It's what he was. He was becoming like his father. Xander and Buffy got in this huge fight when he found out that she was sleeping with Spike. And this was right after he saw his ex-fiancée sleeping with Spike. Needless to say, he wasn't too happy. They made up, and Warren came in, and he had a gun and tried to shoot Buffy. He shot her, and while he was fleeing, his gun went off and killed Tara. And that began who the real villain of the season was, Willow. Willow and her magic addiction was only a prelude to this moment. When Tara died, Willow went dark-eyed, and she absorbs all this power to become a super witch and to find Warren and Andrew and Jonathan and kill them. She finds Warren first, flays him, skins him, and that's when she descends into darkness. Willow gets in this huge battle with Buffy, and before she escapes, and decides there's this statue on the top of Sunnydale that would scorch the earth. While she was starting to scorch the earth, Xander arrived, and he just gave this heartfelt speech.
The first day of kindergarten, you cried because you broke the yellow crayon, and you're too afraid to tell anyone. You've come pretty far, ending the world, not a terrific notion. But the thing is, yeah, I love you. I love crayon breaky Willow, and I love scary veiny Willow. So if I'm going out, it's here. If you want to kill the world, well, then start with me. I've earned that.
You think I won't?
It doesn't matter. I'll still love you.
Shut up.
I love you.
Stop!
In that moment, Xander saved the world with his love for Willow. He was able to tap into that little bit of humanity she had left in her and stop her from destroying the world. Season 7 begins and we go back to the beginning. Sunnydale High School has been rebuilt. And Xander is working on the construction crew that is rebuilding it. Willow is with Giles in England trying to control her powers. And Dawn is starting high school. Her sophomore year, like Buffy did when we first began the show. And Spike, he did this thing to get his soul back. It wasn't like with Angel. Angel was cursed. He went all through these rituals to get his soul returned to him. He wanted to earn his soul. That played into the next year, which was season 7, with him being a souled vampire and dealing with the ramifications of what he's done. The big bad of the season, the First Evil. The First Evil has a plan. First is to wipe out the Slayer line, and that's what was going on throughout that season. The potential Slayers who weren't called yet, were being killed, along with their Watchers and the Watchers Council. Potential Slayers are being killed. So Giles sends a group of potentials to Buffy's house for her to protect. And throughout the season they get more and more, and they're trying to train them to be ready for this huge fight with the First Evil. In the episode Dirty Girls, which is one of the last 5 episodes of the season, Faith comes back and they all try to work together to defeat the First Evil. And they introduce Caleb, who was played by Nathan Fillion. This is the Light Devil right here. He's evil. He was kind of like a vessel for the First Evil. Buffy and the gang find out where they're hiding out, at this orchard. So Buffy, Faith, Xander, and some of the most seasoned potentials go into battle. And it doesn't go well. A couple of Slayers are killed. Xander gets his eye poked out, and it was horrifying. Buffy sort of lost her footing with the potentials, and Faith kind of took the reins as being in charge, even though she didn't want that kind of power on her. But eventually they all came together, and in the series finale of Chosen, Buffy comes up with an idea to share her power. Using a mystical Slayer scythe, Buffy did a spell with Willow that gave all the potential Slayers, not just in Sunnydale, but all over the world, the power of the Slayer. They went to Sunnydale High School, into the basement, and had this huge battle with all the Uber vamps. And in the midst of the battle, Spike is wearing this amulet that was given to him by Buffy, and it starts to glow. And eventually it takes out all Uber vamps and shuts down the Hellmouth. Buffy and the gang escape just in time, and it ends the show and the series on a positive note. Buffy smiling with a hope of the future. There were lives lost, but they were looking to the future. There was an army of Slayers out there to be trained, and maybe they could finally find some peace. And that was 7 seasons of Buffy. I hope you enjoyed this long-winded review, which I hoped I was able to condense down a lot more than what I did. And check it out if you haven't seen it, because Buffy is an incredible series. You will love it. Trust me. So that's my review. So if you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want a notification, ring that bell. And we'll see you next time.